Hi, do you guys like chocolate?
There we go.
What
That was
kind of
natural.
chocolate?
Well, I'm asking you if you like it.
I like Snickers.
I like. Okay, cool. I'm on board. Corey, what do you think?
I am allergic
To Snickers or to chocolate?
to chocolate.
Okay.
Oh no.
Well,
Everybody has that same reaction. It's fine. It would kill me.
hmm.
No, it wouldn't kill me. It just make me sick.
I was gonna say, how did you find that out? Because the way you find that out, surely it would have
No,
killed
I
you.
am allergic to chocolate and nuts.
Oh, so you fucking
Oh.
hate Snickers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and peanut butter
Wow.
is really bad. Like a Reese's cup. Fuck it.
Well, dude, I'm gonna say this. Mark this as controversial if you wish. Reese's not that good.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I've never been blown
Nope.
away.
Not that good. So there you go.
Reese's Puff.
Now maybe that's like me and John as the UK contingency. You know, people might think, "Oh, you're from the UK, you don't know." Here's another fact that me and John can agree on: UK chocolate better than American chocolate.
100%.
It's a fact.
Every European says that. To the point that I can't eat either of them, so I will trust you on that.
Oh, it's 100% true. If you buy a bag of M&Ms in America and then buy them over here, our M&Ms are so much nicer.
Mm-hmm.
They're because American chocolate's kind of bitter, but like ours is like real, like proper milk in it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
lovely. It's a lovely sweet treat, you know.
The way God
That's
intended.
the way God intended his chocolate to be, Corey. That you'll never experience because God
hates me.
doesn't like you. I
God
didn't want
does
to say
not like me.
hates. I didn't want to say that. I thought that was rude. Because I don't know what God thinks. He doesn't tell me anymore. We stopped talking. Don't
I
worry
hope you guys
about
work
it.
it out.
I don't think we will. I made a big mess up there. You know, he was pretty angry.
This feels like a sitcom setup.
I made fun of his son for playing baseball badly. He didn't like it. I'm like, well,
What position
know.
did Jesus play?
he couldn't hold the ball properly. It hurt his hands.
I was gonna say, were the holes in his hands that big?
You know what I mean? He couldn't grab it properly. I'm like, that's not my problem. You did this, really. You did this.
This is your fault. You and the
Yeah,
Romans.
you fucking did this. And then he got at me. He's like, don't swear in my house. I'm like, well, you know, we had a whole thing. You know, don't worry about it. So I don't know. He didn't send me a Christmas card this year. So I don't know what's gonna happen up there. You know, I'd like it if we could patch it up, but you know, sometimes things just aren't meant to be. You know, you move on.
Yep.
Anyway,
speaking of moving on,
that's an intro.
There you go. So, everybody, welcome to Smark Avengers. My name is Corey, and with me are Dylan and John. And
Hi.
today is going to be part 2 of our coverage of the 1990s Batman storyline Knightfall. Now, in case you have not listened to part 1 that came out last week, so by all means, feel free to. If you don't mind the spoilers, I'll give you a very brief recap. Essentially, Bruce Wayne is in a place of psychologic and physical vulnerability as he's getting pressed further and further against his limits by newcomer villain Bane. In the meantime, he has taken on a new ally in the form of John Paul Valley, whose secret identity is Azrael. And John is dealing with some very deep-rooted brainwashing that turns him into an assassin for a secret religious order. Batman faces off with Bane. Bane breaks his back and paralyzes him from the waist down, forcing Bruce to choose John Paul Valley to succeed him as Batman. As Bruce goes off in a world tour to do some business and eventually get healed, John Paul Valley becomes his own version of Batman that is more violent and more mentally unstable. And when we last left off, John Paul Valley was responsible for his first death as Batman by letting a serial killer fall to his death, dooming his captive hostage who is being held in some hidden location that now no one knows where it is. Was that a succinct recap?
Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we are now entering Act 3 of Knightfall, which is Night's End. Now this is the of the arcs, this is the only one that is not split into 2 parts. This is the third and very final arc. So at this point, John Paul Valley is certifiably gone at this point, and the system is in total control. The spirit of his father is continuing to push him forward and demands that he avenge his death. Now, despite his father's murder already being apprehended months previously, John's mental health is at a point where he rationalizes that a weapons manufacturer in Gotham is the man who killed his father, and that becomes his new primary target. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne has returned to Gotham a healed man and meets with Tim. And although he's disappointed to hear that John disobeyed his orders by going after Bane, Bruce is impressed that John was able to beat him and decides to retire permanently and allow John to continue on as Batman. That lasts about a few seconds, because then Tim tells him about what happened to Abattoir. So, needing to see this for himself, Bruce sneaks back into the Batcave and demands that John step down. John, however, refuses and tells Batman to never come back to the cave again. The time spent injured has dulled Bruce's senses, and he knew that he was in no way fit to attempt to fight John in his current state. So, Bruce Wayne does what everyone in DC Comics does when they need to learn how to fight again. They make a deal with the deadliest woman alive, Lady Shiva. Do you guys know who Lady Shiva is?
No.
I do not.
Okay, so Lady Shiva is the be-all, end-all, deadliest woman in DC Comics. She is deadlier than Deathstroke, Deadshot, Lobo, Shadow, and everyone else who gets paid to put somebody into the ground. Quite frankly, she is the world's greatest martial artist and can kill you any number of ways. She's very, very good. She is Cassandra Cain, who is a character that is introduced a few years later from this point in Knightfall. Her mother is Lady Shiva, and that's how Cassandra is so adept at fighting. So, Shiva reteaches him and then sends a wave of trained killers after Bruce because she has framed Bruce for the death of their master. So the deal in Shiva's mind is simple. She can call off the killers at any time, but will not do so until Bruce chooses to break his no-kill belief. Because Shiva always believed that was the thing that was holding Bruce Wayne back from being a better fighter. Eventually, after surviving several of these attacks, Bruce seemingly gives in and kills the man with a blow that Shiva had taught him. With their deal honored, Shiva promises to fight Batman one-on-one to the death someday and leaves. Robin and Nightwing, who had been brought up to speed about everything and really wasn't happy about any of it, secretly had followed Bruce and witnessed him commit murder. Though Bruce does tell Robin and Nightwing that the man he struck only appeared to be dead and was actually fine.
What a coincidence.
Right?
How did he know? Did they choreograph that ahead of time?
Yep. They
It's
practiced
like
it out. Exactly. Bruce hit a Canadian destroyer. Guy popped back up, hit Bruce with a Canadian destroyer. Bruce popped up, gave him a Canadian destroyer.
Just chopped each other for 20 minutes.
They both acted like they were wobbly and then fell down at the same time while the crowd chanted, "This is awesome."
That Shiva one was like, wow, these guys are talented.
5 stars.
Unbelievable. I might break my own rating system for this. It's incredible. And then Batman killed him. That's the only way this could possibly have ended after such a vicious fight. Unbelievable. Yep. I rated very highly. Match of the year. Booker of the year.
There you go.
And Batman's like, wait, what? What? What are you talking about? I killed a guy. Please have some compassion for the dead. You know? I was gonna say something, but I got caught up with that.
You got caught up in your analogy. That's fair.
Forget it. I'll remember later.
Okay. So Bruce returns to the Batcave and dons his original Batman costume. Along with Robin and Nightwing, he tracks John down to the weapon manufacturer's penthouse. Catwoman is also there to confront the same weapons manufacturer that John is tracking for her own reasons. So as all of these parties confront one another, it's a massive fight that breaks out that ends with a helicopter crashing into a bridge while John and Bruce are fighting basically on it.
Why?
John falls... Because, man. The weapons manufacturer was attempting to get away. John was hell-bent on killing him, and Bruce was hell-bent on keeping John from killing him.
I wonder because I'm like, are they just having a fight? And the helicopter guy was like, I gotta get closer. I gotta see this fight.
Yep.
I gotta see all the chops, And then he got too close. He crashed into the bridge. We've all been there. There are helicopters.
There you go.
Done that. Oh, dude, John, how many helicopters have we broken? Just getting close to watching two bums fighting on the street.
I've lost count.
So many. And I don't know
It's-
why people keep letting us fly them. It's
They're so
irresponsible of those
expensive.
guys. It's ridiculous. Really, it's their fault.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So John ends up falling into the water below, while Catwoman and Bruce save the weapons manufacturer and his thugs before the helicopter can explode.
That's good, man. You want to save the weapons manufacturer. That's who you want to save.
Yes.
Like, that's the guy. How are we gonna get our weapons if this guy dies? We're fucked. We can't make them ourselves.
But letting him die is what made John Paul Valley a bad Batman. And Bruce is a good Batman, so he's not going to let him die.
But he just killed a guy apparently a moment ago.
No, he didn't though, because that was again.
But the implication was that he did.
He made Lady Shiva think that he did. Yes.
Okay. So now she's out of the picture. He's like, no more killing. Ha ha ha. Fooled you.
Yep. Because that's the thing about Shiva is like, no one ever enters a fight with Shiva expecting to win. The expectation is, oh fuck, I'm about to die. Like when Tim Drake was getting trained to be Robin, he was basically sent to go train under Shiva, and unbeknownst to the people who were responsible for Tim's training, Shiva did the same thing of like, all right, we're gonna fight to the death now. And Tim managed to win the fight by drugging Shiva the night before because he realized he would be fucked if they fought.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that counts as winning.
Oh no, he absolutely cheated and was completely adamant about it.
Fair enough. And she was like, "You got me. Good. That's a good one."
Yep.
Fair enough. She was like, she had no revenge she wanted to take. She was like, "No, that's fine."
No, she called him clever and then said one day they would finish it. She gets more amused by people. Like another Denny O'Neil comic is The Question, and I love The Question. That's another one of those like series that ran for a good bit of time. But that one, basically the first issue starts with Shiva essentially killing The Question and is just amused by it. And like part of his storyline is at that point training to be a better fighter.
I mean, yeah, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff about Shiva going, "Oh, good one, you got me, but someday I'm gonna kill you." And like, well, just kill him now. You lazy.
She's in no rush. She's got all the time in the world in her mind.
Fair enough.
She's more of that like, I want to fight you at your best kind of deal.
Not when I'm drugged.
Yeah, exactly. You drugged me with you drugged my tea. How dare you?
Yeah, but like, if they fight again, couldn't he just drug her again?
I mean, I would imagine she'd be prepared for that next time.
With the anti-drugs.
Yeah, anti-drugs.
Very clever, Shiva. You got me there.
So yes, Catwoman realizes that this is her Batman because he made the decision to save these obviously guilty men instead, and Bruce attempts to use the Batmobile to locate John. John, however, has rigged the Batmobile to explode, and it detonates. So everybody's under the assumption that Bruce is dead. Nightwing attempts to fight John one-on-one to avenge Bruce's death, and absolutely gets his shit rocked by John Valley. To the point that if it wasn't for some intervention by the police, Nightwing probably would have died at that point. Because at this point, John is completely unhinged. He has completely given himself to the system. He is kind of formed this new identity as Batman, the Avenging Angel. He's even changed the color motif, so now instead of blue and gray, he's wearing red and gold, which is again more the Azrael costume than the Batman costume. So yeah, he's completely given himself over to the system. So John escapes to the Batcave and is shocked to find that Bruce is there waiting for him. Bruce notes that he's impressed with the trap, but he probably would have gone with something a little less lethal. And thus, finally, back to basics Bruce Wayne, Batman does battle with the technologically advanced armored anti-hero John Paul Valley Batman. So knowing that John's mental state has left him in a frenzy, Bruce outwits him by forcing him into narrow passages of the Batcave that forces John to remove parts of his bulky armor so that he doesn't get trapped. Finally, Bruce is able to blind the night vision sensors on John's helmet and forces him to remove that. So as John's vision returns, he sees Bruce Wayne dressed as Batman standing in front of him like an angel. This completely shatters the remainder of John's psyche as he admits defeat and claims that he was never Batman. Bruce comforts John and allows him to leave the Batcave, to wander Gotham homeless, essentially, and as opposed to turning him into Gotham Police, because basically all of this is Bruce's fault. Like, he should have never allowed a vulnerable John Paul Valley to take on the responsibility of Batman.
True. That part's probably true, yeah.
He shouldn't be allowing him to wander the streets as well, though. He should be sending him to, like, get psychological help.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I agree that he shouldn't have put that guy in that position to begin with, but for him to go, all right, now I'm Batman again, fuck off. And then the guy just leaves, as you've already established, broken mentally.
Yeah.
Completely broken mentally with nowhere else to go. He's like, see you later, bitch. And he just leaves.
Yeah.
Like, that is also like, I mean, yeah, I get the no killing thing, but also like, I mean, that's a bit, morally, that's not great. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's the thing about Batman is it's good to have that moral, like, I'm not going to kill anybody, but then the rest of the shit, you can't just like be a total asshole and not kill anybody. Like that, you gotta have a little bit of responsibility. Like, you shouldn't have put that guy in that position to begin with, but you did. So you're going to have to take some kind of responsibility for it, right?
He kind of doesn't.
Right. Because he's a rich billionaire.
Yeah. So basically, like, he's like, uh-oh, I fucked up. I took this guy no, context here, John Paul Valley is a graduate student at Gotham University when he first finds out that he's Azrael, meaning he's probably 22, 23 years old. So imagine being 22, 23 years old. You find out that your entire life has been a lie. You have this brainwashing in your head that every now and then makes you want to kill people. And you're in the greatest fucking hero in Gotham is just like, hey, guess what? You're Batman now. Try not to fuck this up. And then you do. But yes, Bruce Wayne lets Gotham...
Like, oh, whoa, we're still stuck on this. 1 second.
Yeah.
There's a bit where like Bruce Wayne's like, yeah, I really fucked up. But then he doesn't do, like, again, just admitting you fucked up isn't good enough, right?
So...
You know what I mean? Just be going, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. You're like, oh, well, great. Problem solved. You're not going to jail, So
post-crisis Batman has to be given a weakness. And his weakness seems to be an inability to process his shit correctly.
Okay.
Because, like, because he's still fucked up about what happened to Jason Todd, which, while it's not necessarily his fault, he did put Jason Todd in the position that allowed that stuff to happen. Kind of what happened here with John Paul Valley. He didn't do any of the shit John Paul Valley did, but he put John Paul Valley in the position that stuff could and did happen. So, like, much like the Jason Todd stuff, he's like, I'm just going to cocoon on this. I'll just let this eat me up on the inside for a while.
Yeah, I'll leave this alone. See what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just bottle this up. That's healthy.
This couldn't possibly come back to bite me in the ass the way that it absolutely bit that guy on the ass.
Yeah, right. So that's how Knightfall ends. Bruce Wayne has reclaimed the identity of Batman. John Paul Valley wanders off into the streets, shattered psychologically and basically just catatonic at this point. And all's well that ends well.
Okay. I mean, I will say this. Like we established last episode, we're like, at the start of this whole storyline, Bane was a big thing, and then they got rid of Bane pretty, like, not quickly, but like early enough in the story. There's a lot more storyline to go.
Yeah.
And then with this as well, early on, Bruce Wayne obviously disappeared. They had the new Batman. For him in this second part to like also disappear, you're like, that's so interesting because the first the first part of the story was Bane and this new Batman. And then when you get to the second kind of part and just, I don't want to say resolve both of those things because, they clearly haven't been resolved, but like they've kind of been cleared up in terms of the story. They're no longer in play, shall we say. At the moment, it seems. So like that's a very interesting way to like approach things. If I were to draw a parallel, I will say it's a little bit like in the Clone Saga, how right off the bat the Jackal was a very important part of that entire storyline. But by the end of it, he wasn't a factor at all. And I think probably about halfway through, towards the end of it, they got rid of him as a character because they were like, he's not going to impact the rest of the story. He's an early game, mid game villain. He's not the end game villain,
Yeah, in a lot of ways, Bane was kind of a red herring because they did spend so much time building him up and hyping him up.
I think people think of that storyline as like all Bane. Whenever we've established Bane is like the first third. And then this new Batman comes along, and he's out by the second third.
Well, yeah, because like, first of all, Bane gets established by breaking Batman, but then that basically establishes, Jean-Paul Valley as well, because then he's the one that beats Bane. So,
but then
like, it's wrestling logic again.
But then Batman beats Batman by breaking him mentally. So then you're like, well, who really wins?
I mean,
it's the real Bruce Wayne.
It's established. It's established in I think it's established in a later issue that Bruce knew that even if he was at full strength, he couldn't go against John. That John is just too strong and too quick. And there's an explanation for why John has that weirdness to him. So, the aftermath of Knightfall takes place over a series of story arcs and launches a few different new series as a result. The first big story arc that follows this is called Prodigal. Prodigal's storyline starts with Bruce making amends with Tim for pushing him away during the Arkham Asylum breakout, and by not listening to his concerns about John's mental state. Because that's the thing, is Tim Drake was trying to fucking wave the flag before Bane even showed up. He's like, hey, something's not right with John. John kind of like zones out for a period of time. He's really kind of awkward. Like, I don't know if this is a good idea. He's got a flaming sword, He's got these two blades that come out of the front of his hands, and they also light up in fire. Like, this is a lot of sharp weapons and fire for us to be doing non-lethal stuff,
He built a new basement in his house, and sometimes I'm pretty sure whenever I come over to his house to play Scrabble, I can hear screaming come from the basement. And he says it's not screaming, but it sounds like screaming.
So, Batman ultimately decides to step down as Batman temporarily and allows Dick Grayson to fill in for the role as he reevaluates his health and the actions he would take towards his recovery moving forward. John's time as Batman created a substantial rift in the relationship between the Gotham City Police and Batman. And even though Jim Gordon knew that Dick Grayson was neither his Batman or the violent replacement, he still struggled to trust Batman, learning that basically he shouldn't put blind faith in a costume anymore.
Right.
The rest of the Prodigal storyline centers around Dick as Batman, rounding up the remaining Arkham escapees, forming a closer bond with Tim Drake, and recognizing all of the hard work and sacrifice Bruce has made as Batman. So, like I said, that's a whole story arc pretty much condensed into here's some of the outcome of Knightfall. Then there's a one-shot called Nightwing Alfred's Return. Nightwing Alfred's Return is simply a one-shot where Dick Grayson goes to England and convinces Alfred to come back to Gotham. Because Batman needs him, and Batman's trying to make amends with everybody, and Alfred has always been the one day you're going to get yourself killed, and it damn near happened. So it ultimately ends with Alfred returning home. The next storyline that has a bit of fallout is called Troika. The Troika storyline is centered around Bruce Wayne's change in approach to being Batman. So instead of wearing gray and blue like he had been for decades, he opted for a solid black costume made of Kevlar, with a gold symbol on the chest that looks basically like the Tim Burton movie costume. Additionally, he gets a new state-of-the-art Batmobile, and with Alfred's return, Bruce makes amends with his longtime friend and father figure, reevaluates his approach with his family and friends, and begins to deal with the consequences of his decision to make John Paul Valley his replacement. So at this point, about 6-8 months have passed, and now Bruce is getting around to the, I got to deal with this whole John Paul Valley thing that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, a new series launches, Azrael. So Azrael is a comic centered around John Paul Valley, written by Dennis O'Neil, and begins with Batman finding a homeless John Paul Valley and gives him the financial means to travel the world to find himself, just like he did when he was starting out as Batman. These travels lead John to Europe, where he discovers more about the Order of St. Dumas and the system, before returning to Gotham and rejoining the Bat family as an ally. In total, Knightfall, from the lead up to the beginning, is told through Batman, Batman Legend of the Dark Knight, Batman Shadow of the Bat, Detective Comics, Catwoman, Robin, Justice League Task Force, and several other one-shots and miniseries and other things that came out about it. And much like Death of Superman, the objective was to always bring Bruce Wayne back to being Batman, but also to make people believe that the change was going to be permanent.
Right.
So, as stated previously, Knightfall came out shortly around the same time as Funeral for a Friend, which was the second arc of the Death of Superman saga. Other DC characters would go on to have their own jarring days of bad news ahead of them, and these might be future episodes where we do something similar. So examples of these were Green Lantern Hal Jordan being driven insane and replaced with Kyle Rayner, a new Wonder Woman being appointed by Hippolyta, Aquaman losing his hand, and
Magic hand.
Oh, yeah, eventually leading to the Magic Hand, and Green Arrow dying in a plane crash as his long-lost son takes over the role. Essentially, the 1990s was a rough time to be a heavy hitter in DC Comics.
Well, for anybody, really.
Yeah, really. I don't know, man. The 90s were that bad here.
90s
Good Clinton in office.
Well, we established for Spider-Man, not so good for him. No. What happened with the other Marvel stuff?
Fucking Legacy Virus.
Legacy Virus, Onslaught ruined a lot of the Marvel characters and disappeared.
Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, Age of Apocalypse really fucked stuff up. Yeah, you know what? Not great for everybody, really.
No, it was a rough time for comics world. So IGN ranked Batman Knightfall Part 1 Broken Bat as number 15 on a list of the 25 greatest Batman graphic novels, stating, quote, "What makes Knightfall Part 1 so memorable is not the actual snapping of Batman's back, it's the quick fall into despair that proves most shocking. The ending is a foregone conclusion as Batman is worn down both physically and mentally. The Batman spirit is broken before his vertebrae, and that's a feat you'll never see accomplished anywhere else."
Right. I like that. The idea that his mind is broken more than his body.
Yes. That's really what led to Bane's victory. Bane had thoroughly dissected Batman's psyche.
Yes, which is an important part of if figuring out who Batman is. Then you're able to play it both sides. Mm-hmm. Because everybody knows that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person, but they're two different psyches, right? Two different sides of the same coin, and so playing them both is the way to do it. If you know who both of them are, it's easier to beat them, and that's been kind of established with anybody who knows your superhero identity. It's easier to beat you if you know who you are, because you can attack different ways.
So, I'm going to apologize for the next section because I'm going to be condensing about 30 years of story very, very quickly. Have we
ever apologized for anything that we've ever done on this show?
This is a momentous occasion then.
I would say it first and then see if it's worthy of apology.
Okay. So the question now becomes, where are they now? Batman. Post Knightfall saw Bruce Wayne be more open and willing to lean on his allies. The black costumes stuck around through Grant Morrison's run on JLA, but switched to a gray and black motif later. Bruce is seemingly killed by the new god tyrant of Apocalypse, Darkseid, in an event titled Final Crisis, which led to a story called Battle for the Cowl, where multiple people attempt to take the mantle of Batman after his death, including Tim Drake, Jason Todd, and surprisingly Two-Face, before Dick Grayson ultimately took on the identity of Batman once more. Dick's second tenure as Batman saw him take on Bruce's son Damian as his Robin, become a member of the Justice League, and raise his profile in the superhero community. It was discovered that Darkseid's Omega Beam actually sent Bruce back in time, and once returning to the present, took up the mantle of Batman once more. This time, seeing the benefit of sharing the role with Dick Grayson, he started Batman Incorporated, an organization that sought to install a Batman in multiple cities across the world. This was in play until Flashpoint, when the post-crisis continuity was rewritten. In the New 52 continuity, there is another period where Bruce steps down as Batman when he gets amnesia during a fight with the Joker. This time, it's Commissioner Jim Gordon who takes on the mantle, with the aid of a mech suit called the Rookie and a stun gun as Gotham City Police affiliated Batman.
Oh, I don't like that.
Bruce ended up re-downloading his memories and returned to the role shortly after. Since then, Bruce has only shared the Batmantle once more with Jace Fox, who we discussed in our previous episode of big momentous changes that didn't stick around.
Why didn't we talk about Commissioner Gordon being Batman for things that didn't stick around?
There was just, honestly, that was a two-parter as well. It could have been a three-part.
Because nobody gave a fuck.
Yeah, it was a very short storyline. It only made sense because in the New 52, they had de-aged Commissioner Gordon, so he wasn't as old.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave himself a military haircut, shaved off his mustache, and looked absolutely nothing like the character did previously.
Fair enough.
And the suit had bunny ears as well for some reason.
Yep, that was
Gun Bunny.
Gun Bunny.
There you
Gun
go.
Bunny.
Is Gun Bunny going to be a new character on this show?
Looks like it.
Gun Bunny, Armless Tiger Man, and Baby Juggernaut. What an assortment.
What's the arc going to be for this one? Gun Bunny for no reason.
All right, Bane. After being locked away in Blackgate, Bane went through withdrawals from Venom, but eventually rebuilt his body and kicked his addiction for the time being. After escaping Blackgate, he assisted Bruce Wayne in fighting off some thugs who had found a weakened version of Venom. Once the fight was over, Bane asked Batman to leave him alone and that he had no interest in Gotham anymore before leaving the country to find his father. While tracking down leads to the identity of his father, Bane encounters Ra's al Ghul, who's impressed with Bane's intellect, strength, and skills. Ra's declares that Bane would be his heir and becomes engaged with Raj's daughter, Talia. However, another encounter with Bruce Wayne sees Bane defeated, and Ra's ends the engagement. Bane pops up here and there for the next few years, attacking Azrael to get revenge, but ultimately losing, attempting to take over Gotham once more, but eventually losing. And around this time, Bane gets two recurring tropes. One, getting addicted to Venom again, and two, breaking people's backs.
Love that shit, dude.
Yeah.
He's back. Oh, it's addictive.
Yep. Once you pop.
Almost as addictive as the drugs that pumped in my skull.
Yep. Eventually, he becomes a main character in the Gail Simone written book, Secret Six, and his story there focuses on being a father-like figure for Vandal Savage and kicking his Venom addiction once more. In the New 52 and Rebirth, there isn't a lot of change there aside from the Forever Evil storyline, where Bane dons his own version of a Batman suit as he attempts to take control over Gotham, and during the City of Bane storyline, where Bane forms an alliance with Thomas Wayne, a Batman from the Flashpoint continuity, and kills Alfred. Bane faces death after the event, but keeps a low profile until he discovers that he has been partially cloned to create a daughter named Vengeance. Bane's attempts to recruit her go sour as she opts to align herself with Azrael instead. So, Bane doesn't have the most fun run at that point. He's somebody who I've seen stated, like, he peaked in his first storyline.
Yeah, it seems that way.
It does seem like the way. We've talked about how much I like Gail Simone on the show, but yes. I've seen snippets of her take on Bane, and it, as much as I love her, it just doesn't seem like Bane.
He seems like a teddy bear kind of figure.
Yes, he doesn't seem like the monster that you want him to be.
Yeah,
it's a little bit like if I may go back to wrestling for a little bit, because we're the Smark Avengers. Whenever people would talk about a guy like Keith Lee, big imposing motherfucker, and then would talk very eloquently, and you're like, it's hard to take him that seriously as a monster. Whenever you're being very sweet and eloquent with your verbiage. And I felt like that when I read Gail Simone's Being. It's like he's still Bane, but there's something off about it. He's been a little bit too vocal, a little bit too sweet. And I know that you want to add wrinkles to the character, obviously, and give him something else. If you think about a big monster, they're usually very one-dimensional. Obviously, you want to give them layers and character. But I always thought that Bane did have. If you think about the big monster characters in comics, Bane did have a logical backstory with the character to it. You didn't need to add that wrinkle to it, Out of all the people you could have picked. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bane was like the one that did have stuff you could tell and kept on his character, and you didn't have to do any of this stuff. You could have picked somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Secret Six book, a lot of people really liked it, but I kind of felt like a lot of those characterizations were off, like Silver Banshee, and I do think she nailed Ragdoll 2, though. Okay. Like, Ragdoll 2 was sufficiently creepy and gross, so well done on that one.
Okay.
All right. So, Azrael. John Paul Valley's Azrael comic ran for 100 issues between 1995 and 2003.
Pretty good.
The storyline...
Pretty good.
Pretty good. The storyline mainly focused initially on discovering the truth about his past in the Order of St. Dumas, with writer Dennis O'Neil equating it to an Arthurian quest for the Holy Grail. Eventually, John discovers that he had been born in a lab, and that his unusual strength and stamina was the result of gene splicing with animal DNA. So, after returning to Gotham, John slowly but surely regains the trust of Bruce and Tim, before eventually being welcomed back as a regular ally and member of the family. John is killed in the final issue of his comic, and despite it being ambiguous due to his body not being recovered, he is resurrected as a Black Lantern in the Blackest Night event comic, which I think will be a future episode, maybe in October. So,
okay.
A decade passes before John appears in the New 52 storyline, Batman and Robin Eternal, this time as a more active participant in the Order of St. Dumas, before coincidentally beating Bane again and joining the Bat family. In Rebirth, he's featured as a team member of Batman's group in Detective Comics before going off into space to track down the source of voices in his head in Justice League Odyssey. Justice League Odyssey was a team book made up of Cyborg, Starfire, Azrael, and Green Lantern Jessica Cruz as they were pulled into space by Darkseid's machinations. After that series ends, John resumes his duties as Azrael in his more traditional costume, which is very identical to his 90s costume, essentially, but is shown to be a little less mentally stable as he is more prone to assume the identity of the Avenging Angel. He was given his own miniseries again called Swords of Azrael that further explores the origins of the Order of St. Dumas as another member of a similar religious sect named the Poor Fellow attempts to create a new Azrael as John is deemed a failure for not embracing the role. John is last seen working with the clone of Bane, Vengeance, and his adoptive brother, Father Valley. Note, the Azrael version of the Batman suit comes up multiple times throughout all of these stories. He can't get away from that suit.
Mm-hmm.
So, Azrael had a good run. His solo comic. I have the entire solo comic run. I have not been reading them, but I have them, which has been a project of mine to eventually start reading through all 100 issues of it. So,
how many issues have you got through so far?
I've gotten through 2.
Wow, it must be a real good read.
I have not been reading current comics lately because of how interesting my life has been as of late.
Fair enough. So,
there have been Knightfall has been touched upon in a couple of different ways. There have been alternate versions of Knightfall. For one, a few years ago, there was a one-shot called Tales from the Dark Universe Knightfall, in which John Paul Valley viciously defeats Bruce Wayne in their final confrontation instead. The storyline jumps 30 years into the future, where John Paul, now calling himself Saint Batman, uses venom to maintain his physicality, possibly to compensate for his aging, after killing all of Gotham's villains. Saint Batman also has Gotham burnt down and completely rebuilt as he isolates it from the rest of the outside world, which is hinted to have fallen into chaos as well. John Paul keeps Bruce Wayne alive, but only as a head and torso in Wayne Tower, linked to a life support system so that he can attempt to sway him to his way of thinking every year on the anniversary of his defeat. So, very dark for that story. A few years ago as well, there was a miniseries called Batman Curse of the White Knight, in which John Paul Valley is a former member of the military who's dying of cancer and is manipulated by the Joker into believing he is truly Gotham's protector and that he must destroy Batman. This version of John is older, trained in heavy ammunition with no scruples about using guns alongside the Flaming Sword, and is accompanied by two of his fellow mercenaries known as Michael and Gabriel. The storyline mainly revolves around a secret history of this version of Gotham, but Azrael is displayed as a genuine threat as he kills Bane, kills Commissioner Gordon, and multiple others before nearly killing Bruce himself. In the end, Azrael discovers he had been manipulated and dies from his injuries after acknowledging that the Wayne family are the true protectors of Gotham. So there's your dark versions of the same story for the most part. So this story has been somewhat adapted. And I mentioned this in the previous episode. There have been attempts to adapt it. It just always seems to leave out one very crucial element, and that's Azrael. So they adapt Knightfall, but they completely ignore arcs 2, 3, and part of arc 1.
So, right. They just focus on Bane and Batman.
Exactly. So the character Bane was quickly added to the roster of villains in Batman the Animated Series, because at this point, Batman the Animated Series is on the air as this storyline's coming out. But it was such a big deal, they put him in immediately, if you can. So he appears in the episode Bane as an assassin rather than a mastermind, as he was in the comics. He was hired by the mobster Rupert Thorne to eliminate Batman, and in turn, by Thorne's gun, Mole, to eliminate Thorne afterwards. Bane eventually fights Batman on a board of a boat where Robin had been kidnapped and tied up, but before he could break his back as he did in the comics, Batman thrusts a crumpled batarang into the controls that injects Bane venom. This action causes a rapid, uncontrollable feed into Bane's body before Batman pulls out the tube, stopping a fatal overdose of the drug. The Knightfall saga is also loosely adapted in the cartoon The Batman episode titled Traction, and in this version, Bane lures Batman into a trap. Batman overpowers Bane in his normal form, but when Bane unleashes his more bestial side, he severely injures Batman and breaks his back off screen. Believing him to be dead, Bane attempts to take over Gotham City. 3 weeks after crippling Batman, Bane goes on a rampage through Gotham and knocks out a detective, and as he's prepared to kill her, Batman interferes wearing a new mechanical batsuit and battles Bane. As Bane attempts to unmask Batman and kill him, Bane uses an electrical wire to incapacitate him. Then, of course, I think there's the biggest one, which is The Dark Knight Rises, which I think at some point we'll do an episode on the Nolan Batman movies.
I think so.
Yes. So, yeah, the film focuses on Bane's early life in a foreign prison called the Pit, and it involves Alfred resigning as, Bruce's butler. Bane uses a high-tech cannon to start a jailbreak at Blackgate Penitentiary and equips the inmates with firearms to take control of Gotham. Bane deduces that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Bane then ambushes Batman and forces them into a fight. Since Batman is too weak to defend himself, Bane successfully beats Batman and finishes him off by breaking his back with his knee. So there you go. That's essentially the same storyline minus Azrael.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then it takes some turns where Bane's not that important either.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, kind of. Like he basically takes over Gotham as well, isolates it from the rest of America and makes it his own little kingdom. And I
So
guess
that's a little bit of
Talia
no
comes
man's
into
land.
it as well. Yeah.
And then you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt as not Robin.
But basically Robin.
Yep. In Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Bane references this. I had a feeling I'd get a reaction.
Oh, I did not know about that one. Is Gun Bunny in it?
No, I don't think she is, but she should have been.
Bullshit.
So Bane references the storyline when he boasts that he is the man who broke the bat, and he attempts to break Donatello's back in the same manner.
But he's got a turtle shell.
Exactly. Turtle soup. Have you ever had turtle soup?
No.
There's a German restaurant in town called the Mohawk that has a home recipe for turtle soup, because back in the day when the restaurant first opened in the early 1900s, they used to raise the turtles in the basement themselves.
Aw. And we killed them.
Yeah, and then they fed them to people.
Delicious turtles.
Tastes kind of like hamburger, to be honest with you.
What? I kind of had to digest that for a moment. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what did he say?
Turtle tastes kind of like hamburger.
Oh, okay. Well, now that I know what you said, that's fair enough then.
Okay.
Carry on.
In the television show Gotham, both Bane and Azrael make appearances, but are very different. Bane uses his father's name and does not break Bruce Wayne's back, because in Gotham, Bruce Wayne is a child.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I think he throws Commissioner Gordon
break
against
the back of a child. It's actually easier to break the back of a child, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. There you go.
Like lazy. This guy's a big fucking scary dude. He can't even break the kid's back. I could break a kid's back.
There you go.
I'm not doped up on Venom. You know what I mean?
Azrael also shows up in Gotham, but it is not John Paul Valley. He is also just an assassin from an ancient religious order. Finally, they both appear in the Arkham series video games, with Bane as a mini-boss in the first game and shows up again in the second game, maybe even the third. And Azrael shows up in the second and third game, but it's not John Paul Valley. It is a character named Michael Lane, who had taken on the Azrael identity in a short comic run in the early 2010s. Not affiliated with John Paul Valley whatsoever, though. Barely affiliated with the Order of St. Dumas. Then, of course, you have the Injustice game, where Bane is a character, but I mean, it's a fighting game. There's not really any story for Bane in that.
Wait. I feel like you missed out a big... Maybe I missed this. I'm sorry if I did miss this, but I feel like you missed a big Bane appearance out. Batman Forever?
Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin?
Yes. Batman and Robin, and yes, Bane...
You didn't mention it at all.
Yes.
When did that come out? 96?
95.
95. And so when did this Bane storyline end in the comics? 94?
94.
So by this point, everybody knows Bane's a big deal.
Kind of, yes. It seems to be the case.
And they thought Bane was such a big deal, we're going to make him the sidekick to Poison Ivy, who herself is kind of the sidekick to Mr. Freeze.
No, I would say Poison Ivy's kind of the main antagonist of that, because she's manipulating Mr. Freeze throughout most of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, but okay, dude, it's been like...
Yeah, look at John and I getting up on you on that one.
Listen, I'll fight you both, just independently of this. I just love fighting, but also I've seen that film once. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Because I saw it once and I thought, that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough for me.
I can't believe I saw it once, you know? But I remember Bane being in that film, and I remember being, even at the time, even with my ignorance of the Batman, comic history, being incredibly underwhelmed by Bane's appearance.
Yeah. So Bane in Batman and Robin is essentially Bane in name and vague appearance alike.
He's a wrestler. That's it.
He's Jeep Swenson,
who
was a wrestler. And if you ever want to, if your morbid curiosity ever gets the better of you, If you I think if you search up Jeep Swinson's name in Google Image, there's this really weird photo of him and like two women, and they appear to all be naked in bed. One of those women is his daughter.
Yeah. How did you find that out?
Because I was looking at pictures of Jeep Swinson when I realized he was Bane. I was like, were there behind the scenes photos of him in the costume with the mask off? Like, what's the deal?
Are there behind the scenes photos of him with his daughter naked? Maybe.
Yeah, well, that's what I discovered. Jesus.
Wow, what a time to what a great thing to discover.
Yeah, wasn't the internet fantastic? You get to find out this stuff.
No, it's maybe the worst thing that ever happened.
But yes, in Batman and Robin, Bane is essentially a mute who can grunt and groan. He has no intelligence whatsoever, and he's defeated quite simply once Batgirl and Robin just kick the hose out of his head, which causes him to shrink and turn into a little guy again.
He shrinks down into like 2 foot tall.
Yep.
The problem with like, I mean, there's a lot of problems with that, obviously. Like that, I mean, we could probably do a whole episode on that fucking film about how bad it is. We did talk about it in our Batman.
We did talk about it already.
But I mean, like, we could probably devote a whole episode to how bad it is. But like, it's such a shame that like they demoted Bane to like you said, like third villain.
Yeah. And
just like mindless, like idiotic, big muscle guy. Whenever we've established that, like in the comics, he was quite smart. He was able to dissect Bruce Wayne and Batman like better than any other villain at that time had been able to do. And it's very telling about that film where they were like, nope.
Yes.
We're not doing that. No, we're going to make this the most basic ass Batman we can make it.
Can I tell you my favorite image from Batman and Robin is there's like they do some detective work and they find a photo of Poison Ivy and Bane like arriving in Gotham at the airport, and you see them on like the tarmac, and Bane is wearing a trench coat and a fedora, but he still has like the big fucking mask and shit on and the hose sticking out of the back of his head.
Yeah.
Amazing. Just amazing.
He's a luchador though. He would keep the you gotta protect the face.
Right.
I wonder what his passport photo looked like.
He's still got that lucha. What do you think about if you like if you're like Tiger Mask or Rey Mysterio or whatever, if you've always worn the lucha mask and then you have to travel to the United States and you show them your passport, do you have to take the mask off, or is the passport photo with them with the mask on? Right?
Well, that's why most masked wrestlers, their real names are not known. That way they could just go through the airport and show them like their real picture and name.
Right, but I mean like Rey
Mysterio's name is not Rey Mysterio. I hope you know that.
Yes, I know. Obviously, his name isn't fucking Mystic King, right? We know this, but like
I know. Just wanted to make sure.
But I mean, so they show their face to like the one guy, but they would still walk through the airport with the mask on. So at some point they'll have to take the mask off to show the guy that it's them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So couldn't other people see that happening?
Well, I mean, that's if they, because I think what Corey's saying is if people don't know their real name, they don't know their real face, then they can just travel on the airplane incognito.
Oh, so you're saying they don't travel with the mask on?
No. Why would they? Exactly. Why would they travel with the mask on?
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Gotcha.
Because I think they wouldn't be able to get through security, period, with a mask on.
Yeah.
If I walked into like airport with a mask on and it's not like a COVID mask, I feel like I would be stopped very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like rolling into a bank wearing a ski mask, which is cold outside.
But it is cold outside.
All right. Well, do you guys have any closing thoughts on the Knightfall arc, on Azrael or Bane or any of the other stuff we talked about?
So what we've established is that this storyline brought in a lot of new twists that were really cool to like the Batman lore. Like they established Bane as a big fucking bad guy, which is what I feel like that's kind of missing from a lot of like modern comics, is that it's hard to bring in a new bad guy and make him legit. And I think they did that with Bane. Like he's not their old rogues gallery. This is a new guy that you're not prepared for. And then they kind of folded him out, and then as time went on, people weren't able to adapt that character the way that he was originally, and so his star kind of faded a little bit.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite the same as he used to be. And the same with like the new Batman. What's his name? John Paul
Valley.
John Paul Valley. Is it like they introduced a new Batman? They introduced like this guy that had the abilities to become Batman, but like he's twisted, so he's like a dark version of Batman. Like they could have done like something there, but once the storyline was wrapped up, again they kind of like, well, it's not that. Don't worry about it, and made him, like.
I mean, he did have his own comic for about 5-6 years.
Yes, well, I mean that's true, but like,
they also did choose to kill him off and not bring him back for a decade. So I understand what you're saying.
Yes, that's true. You know what I mean? Like there were a lot of choices, and again, that's part of like the big thing in the 90s where like they introduce things that are so big and so epic in terms of the characters, like the shake up of the characters they're doing. But like once that storyline is over, what do you do after that? For example, I think we talked about in the Death of Superman. What did they do with Doomsday after Doomsday? Not a whole lot. Like he came back for sure. He came back. He did stuff, but like it wasn't as impactful as the first time he was there.
Yeah, and exactly. You can only kill
diminishing
Superman
returns
once.
When it shouldn't be. The whole point of establishing a character is that it shouldn't be diminishing returns. It should be an impending threat. And maybe we briefly talked about this regarding Onslaught. If we haven't, we will talk about that in a future show. But I feel like that's what they've done with Onslaught, in that they established him as a huge character that had, world-changing abilities and things like a lot of like repercussions.
Yeah.
After the first time you see him, and then after that, it's kind of like, he gives a shit, and that's not the way you treat people. Maybe also like Cassandra Nova. The first time she came in, it was like, holy shit, and then after that, you're like, there she is. We'll beat her. And so there's a lot of villains like that where you feel like you got to keep the pressure on them. If you're gonna use them right,
So when we were talking about Death of Superman, and we're talking about like how when the writers had their summit to plot the story out, they were like, we have to create a new villain because all of the other villains had fought Superman numerous times and had failed. So for this to work, it has to be a brand new villain. So you introduce a new villain who does the thing that no one else has been capable of doing, and that is kill and or permanently incapacitate the hero. That is diminishing returns. Like, they will never replicate that again. So it's almost like Bane got his big story, but he is now forever cursed with never being able to relive that moment.
Yeah. Right. That's part of it too. Like, how do you like top that?
Yeah, you can't, basically.
Yeah. That's a big problem too. They were very ambitious with what they did, but
they've been hinting at Doomsday's return in the comics for about 2-3 years now. Like they said, they're still teasing it because Doomsday's been trapped in hell. And
is Strong Guy the leader?
Not quite. I don't think so. Not even Doomsday's the leader of hell right now. DC Hell is a little like suspicious. They don't seem to ever really advertise who the head guy is down there.
Imagine being Doomsday, who killed Superman, and you're not even the leader of hell.
I mean, he's not. He's also not. He's not a genius or super intelligent. He's just a monster that likes to kill things.
Right. But he doesn't have to be. He fucking killed Superman.
He does scare the demons, though. Like that's an aspect of the character, is that the devils are terrified of him.
If you were looking at your resume as a supervillain, right? Looking at what you could do as a supervillain, and the top of your resume was, "Oh, I killed Superman," you'd be like, "All right, that guy, he's pretty good." Not gonna lie, Do you know what I mean? Like, he's right up there. He killed Superman.
Yeah.
How many other people have killed Superman? By my count, 0.
No. Even the New 52 Superman, he ended up like being turned into Doomsday at one point. Like,
I mean, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like,
now there is
so he killed himself? What are you talking about?
Well, it was like a virus.
Oh, it's the Doomsday virus. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean, though. Like, he has such mystique to him. Like, how could he not be the Lord of Hell? Like, but also what you're saying was like they're teasing by bringing him back, but like, how do you bring him back in a way that like, right off the bat they made him kill Superman? Like, what can he do after that would make him go, I'm still a big deal? Kill him again? You know what I mean? And the problem with the guy like Doomsday is he's supposed to adapt to his you know, like whatever kills him, he can adapt to that and then come back stronger, right? So like, if on the first time you see him, he was able to adapt to Superman and come back and destroy Superman, and then we've seen him 6 or 7 times after that, he should have adapted to all of that. He should have adapted to every single thing that killed him. So that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, now mind you, they have been they have been pacing out like when Doomsday returns. It's not like a Joker situation where every new writer gets to tell their Joker story, but like Doomsday is he is a little more protected than most characters are.
Okay.
Now, like I said, going back to Bane though, Bane not so much. Like Bane always gets a storyline where he like assembles an army and briefly takes over the city, and then like it inevitably goes wrong. Kind of like how, you know, in John Paul Valley, most of his stories revolve around like struggling with his brainwashing and dealing with sort of like the responsibility that comes with being like the last member of this weird secret religious order.
That's just serial storytelling in a nutshell, though, isn't it? Like, characters will keep going back to the status quo, and
that's it.
I was gonna say, like, they left a lot of, you know, the writer who wrote like the miniseries and the short story that was before that left a lot of stuff on the table that, you know, they could follow up on if, you know, DC gives them the go ahead on it. So yeah, I mean, the world, they are using them, at least Azrael, more than they were previously. Like, he's turned up in multiple miniseries and stuff as of late. But yeah, for the most part, that was the biggest storylines for both characters, or the biggest storyline for both characters was Knightfall.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's going to do it for part 2 of our Knightfall episode. John, I think we said that you were going to make up a number of movies you would have presumably watched in a week. What do you got?
Let's see. So I was on 520. So now I'm going to say I'm on 539.
I thought you were going to say 521. What's the one film you saw, John?
I'm planning to go watch Alien Romulus tomorrow, so.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, let me know what you think of it. I had my feelings on it. I don't want to say too much about it right now.
I heard it was pretty good, though.
I liked it. I have my criticisms, though.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Dylan, I would ask you what's going on in Explodey Plays, but you did that last episode, unless you want to do a recap.
No, it's a whole week later.
Yep.
And I imagine in that whole week, things have changed a lot. So by the time this episode goes up, near the end of September. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. This would be, yeah, I think this is going to be towards the end of September.
I would hope that by the time you listen to this show, whoever you might be, that if you go to explodeeplays.com/youtube.com/ I don't know what the thing is, explodeeplays@youtube.com. Then if you go there and subscribe to the YouTube page, you will see episodes of Animal Crossing going up right now. You're gonna be really amazed. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be amazing. There are
Is
a
it
lot
Animal
of
Crossing? I thought you were
no.
doing...
Why do I keep saying Animal Crossing?
You're just reliving the happy days.
It's because I spent an entire year playing Animal Crossing on that channel. So I am so used to saying Explodey Plays and Animal Crossing at the same breath. It's not Animal Crossing. It's Pikmin. It's Pikmin 1, the first Pikmin. It's not. But if you want to watch Animal Crossing, you go to Explodey Plays and you will see 365 episodes of Animal Crossing, and none of them disappoint. Not one. Not a single one of them disappoint. They're all a rip-roaring good time. So check that out, please. I think honestly, I think my Animal Crossing series was one of the most fun things I've done in my entire life, which says a lot about my life, but also I loved that whole run. It was so much fun. Corey, you saw some of it, right?
Yeah. Now, I've asked this previously, so you might have changed your mind. Have you ever considered redoing it but playing a different Animal Crossing game? I know that you liked this one because you could piss off the villagers so they'd leave the island.
Yes. Yeah. Correct. Honestly, I think that was the hook about the first one, was that nobody else was playing it, and it was so like unique and strange and like of its time. Like it was the first Animal Crossing game that ever came out. So like nobody like now it's a phenomenon. But I remember when it came out, we weren't even sure if it was going to come out. Because it was so the text was so English heavy that like because it was a Japanese game, everybody was sure that it would never come out in the West because of how much text it would take to translate it. And it came out about 3 years after it was released in Japan. So like because Nintendo of America were like, nobody's gonna buy this fucking game. Like why would they? It's stupid. And now Animal Crossing is like a culture phenomenon. People love it. But the reason I played the original one was because people forget how good the first one was, you know? And I think if you look at the new one, it's too streamlined for me. I like the restrictions of the original one. And that goes for a lot of games, but Corey, you've seen the way that the original one works. There's a lot of restrictions, a lot of stuff I have to do to get around other things. In the new games, it's not like that. You just kind of play the game and have fun. But I'm like, well, in a proper game, you need rules and restrictions and things that keep you in check because that's part of the game. If you know what I mean. It's very similar to like Pokemon, and that old Pokemon was very specific about what it did. Even though it was very restrictive, it was very specific about what it did. And now if you play Pokemon, it's just kind of like you just play it, have fun. And they forget about a lot of the stuff that made it a proper game. I know that sounds like bullshit, but that's games for you.
Yep.
Anyway, so Exploding Place. just subscribe to the thing, and then you'll see some stuff. If you don't see some new stuff, just watch the old shit. It's really good. The Mario 64 stuff was really good too. I really like that. That was good. So watch that stuff, and then whatever. Oh, the Shantae was really good too. What did you like, Corey? You like Jet Set Radio, right?
Yeah, Jet Set Radio was fun to watch.
Jet Set Radio was good. I really like that. That was really good. We had some good times on there, man. Real good times. So subscribe. Subscribe to see some more good times. There you go. You fucking better subscribe.
John, did we say what your letterbox was? I can't remember.
We did not, but you can find me on Letterboxd at Big John Bowski.
There we go.
One word.
And my other show is called Large Old Cup, also on Spotify. Check that out, Stream of Consciousness. So, that'll do it for today. Dylan, this is the final episode of September, so the two-parter for Knightfall is going to take us out of September and lead us into October.
Cool. Well, I should have shit up for then.
Yeah. So, We will see you all in October. Until then, behave yourselves out there. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I should have done it in Bane's voice.
Do it now. I did not.
We haven't stopped recording yet.
Bye-bye. No, that's not it.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, put your hand up in your mouth when you say it. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah? Corey?
Oh, do I need to do one?
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Bane. Goodbye. Yeah?